We picked up this Nissan Twin Turbo 300ZX for Tech Garage. The car has absolutely no problems. The truck, not so much. We got some massive brake fade when we were towing. So we're gonna go through the complete brake system from the front to the rear with a fine-tooth comb, and we're gonna upgrade the brakes today on Tech Garage. Welcome to Tech Garage presented by Advance Auto Parts. Today it's about upgrading the brake system, the hows and whys to the entire brake system. You know, a lot of us tow with our vehicles. We may be towing a trailer, and not only do we have to stop the vehicle, we also have to stop the forward momentum of the trailer behind it, and then introduces a lot of heat into the brake systems.
And if you're guilty, like many of us are, of adding more power and spending your time trying to figure out how to make your vehicle go faster, well, we've got to balance all that thought, budget, engineering with how do we stop the vehicle? It's a common question. How do I make it go faster? But maybe what we should all be asking is, how does it stop?
That's true. And the power, I got a good analogy for us. If this truck here is driving about 200 horsepower, think about this for a minute. It may go from 0 to 60 in 10 seconds. This brake system has to stop that truck in 1/5 the time. Brian, that's comparable to a 1,000 horsepower brake system.
Now that's some power. Now what we're going to talk about today, we're going to spend our time certainly on doing a thorough brake job. But the reality is many of you have done this job a million times, maybe more. We're not going to just teach you and follow proper procedures. We're going to spend our time emphasizing professional procedures. So you understand how the whole system works, exactly what you're doing, and we'll end up doing this project on our Silverado just like the pros do it.
And you know, Brian, we even have a garage guru with us from Federal Mogul Motor Parts, and he's going to help share some professional tips along the way, but we need to start with the basics first. So let's head over to the trainer. Now, we always like to start with the basics, and two important things is understanding the components, what they are, and just as importantly, a good visual inspection. We'll start out right here with a brake trainer where we have them all laid out. You can have a drum brake system. Now our drum brake system right here, this employs the shoes, and then you have a drum that spins around, or you could have a disc brake system. Now my disc brake system over here actually has a rotor, a caliper, pads, and a housing. You could have four-wheel discs. If you have an older car, you may have four-wheel drums. Either or, you're gonna have to deal with both those systems. Coming up here is the actual heart of our system. That's the master cylinder. And prior to that is our brake booster. Now our brake booster helps in driver assist. When I push it, some vacuum apply is going to help apply this master cylinder. There's pistons inside of here that are going to transfer hydraulic fluid into mechanical energy down at the brake system, which is going to apply the pads and squeeze the rotor. Now I can show it to you in operation. So really what's going on, brake system's job is to convert kinetic energy, which is the motion of the brakes, into heat energy. And we said earlier that heat is going to be our big enemy, and the professionalism that we're going to put into this brake job is going to help us avoid a lot of that. Now if I come over and I just hit the brake pedal, when I hit the brake pedal I'm transferring the fluid down, and when I transfer the fluid down you can actually see it start to lock up here on the disc. It's transferring it down. The kinetic energy of the rotor spinning around is then transferred to heat energy, and we have to dissipate that into the outside atmosphere. And now that you understand the basics, let's put this into practice, because a good visual inspection is the next step, and Brian's doing one right now.
With the wheel off, a professional inspection of all the brake components, in fact suspension components, is your opportunity to make sure you understand everything happening in here. Now we're primarily looking at brakes, but this is the time you want to look at the strut assembly. Everything looks tight. Sway bar assembly, disconnects, bushings, all of that looks pretty good. Now on to the brakes. Let's start with where the hard brake line marries up to the soft brake line. At this coupling, I want to look at the connector. It looks solid, it looks tight. There's no obvious leakage, drippage, no evidence there of any types of problems. In fact, the rubber, the soft brake line, looks to be in really good shape. It's pliable, it's supple, it can move with the suspension. It's not brittle and there's no cracks. I feel pretty good about that. When you move over to the soft brake line where it comes back into a hard coupling into the caliper, you also want to look for any leakage. Nothing there, it looks pretty good. It's obviously very tight. I think that's okay. One problematic area here on the caliper is the bleeder valve. Lots of times they'll shed the little rubber boot, protection boot. Ultimately, we're going to replace this caliper, so it's not a big deal, but if you were using the same caliper, you definitely want to button that up at the end of your project. Then you want to move out to the rotor. On the rotor face, You want to look for burnishing marks, any kind of tracks or heat evidence, kind of footprints where it's been hot spots on the rotor over time. This actually looks pretty decent. Another problematic area would be if we had a ridge out here at the front of the rotor from the pads burning their way down into the rotor over time. This actually isn't too bad, but we're going to go ahead and replace this rotor anyway. And finally, you want to inspect the face of the hat of this rotor. You can see there's a lot of rust and oxidation. In fact, I can feel bumps around here, imperfections. That's going to be problematic when you put the wheel back on and torque the lug nuts down properly. That wheel's not going to sit true against the face of the rotor, and you're going to have lateral runout.
Brian, I found you a bike. You asked for a bike, but you know, man, this one's not going to take you very far.
I'd like to take a ride right about now, but I'll tell you what we're going to use this bike for when we come back to Tech Garage, presented by Advance Auto Parts.